Hey y'all, it's me again. So I had I received some more questions in my inbox, and I think I'm only going to be able to address one of those today. And that question was, Nikki, I don't suffer from panic disorder and I don't have anxiety attacks. Can you walk me through what it's like for someone to have one? And my initial response is it varies from person to person. It varies depending on the situation or how that person is able to manage and cope. So for me, I can go through my more recent one for you to give you an idea of what it's like. So not this past Friday, but the Friday before that, I was getting up from my desk and I was hit with a sudden wave of dizziness. Just came out of nowhere. And I knew I was going into panic mode because I started getting this flushed feeling. It goes from your head to your toes, literally. It's almost like a hot flash. For those of you who've ever experienced one of those, it's very similar to that, but it's different, and it's really kind of hard to describe how it's different. You literally feel like your skin starts to feel like it's on fire, and it's tingly, and it's just weird. And so I knew I was in the early stages of one. However, I thought that if I, got some cold water, my ice water trick that I told you about before, that if I got some cold water, got to my Jeep, turned on the air on high, that it would subside or lessen the intensity of it. And it did not work out that way. So, what ended up happening was I probably got maybe a block and a half from my office before I started feeling a lot of pressure in the back of my head. I started feeling nauseated, and I really felt like lightheaded, like I was gonna maybe pass out. Fortunately, that didn't happen. So I called my husband to tell him, look, I'm on my way home. I think I'm pretty sure I'm having an attack. It's scaring me a little bit because there's like this intense amount of pressure in the back of my head. So my husband stayed on the phone with me until I got home. Now, by this time, I'm dry heaving. So, um, yeah, which is a horrible feeling if you've ever had to deal with dry heaving before. So I pulled into my driveway. Sorry, I pull into my garage and I closed the door. And when I tried to exit my Jeep, I couldn't because my legs wouldn't work. Um, it was sudden onset of weakness in my legs, and that freaked me out a little bit because not only did my legs feel weak, but they just felt like, how how your feet feel when they fall asleep. It was that, but on steroids. It was crazy. And so I finally managed to get into the house, and stupid me did something that I shouldn't have done. I pulled out the blood pressure monitor to check my blood pressure because I just kept having this tightness and pressure in the back of my head, and it just didn't make sense. And so the average blood pressure for me is about 90 over 60. And when I took my blood pressure at that time, it was 133 over 101. So, of course, that only made me freak out even more. So now I'm crying because I'm pretty sure I'm dying at this point. And so I rushed to the bathroom, dry heaving some more, becoming even more lightheaded. Called my husband. I am crying. And I am just like, I need you to come home. I'm scared. I don't know what's happening. My blood pressure is da 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 da. I need you to hurry me get home. And so, we live in Lexington. My husband works downtown just like I do. So he was probably a good 30 minutes away from me. So I decided when I got off the phone with my husband to take my blood pressure again. Now it's gone up. So, of course, that only made me freak out even more. And so then I called my mom crying, Mommy, I'm on my way. I'm coming. So my mom actually arrived at my house probably 10 minutes before my husband. And my mom's like, you're going to the emergency room. You don't look like yourself. And I can't push my goddaughter out the way to rush to the bathroom because I had to dry heave. And I was shaking, visibly shaking. Heart rate was like close to 130. It was just horrible. It was just, you couldn't have told me that I wasn't dying. I was pretty sure I was checking out at that time. So we get to urgent care. We decided to go to urgent care first because it was closest. So we get to urgent care. My legs won't work, so they had to bring a wheelchair out to wheel me in. And we get in there, and they take me straight to the back because with the pressure in the back of my head and the dry heaving and I was literally doing like this, they said that I was exhibiting signs of a stroke. So they wanted to uh, be able to immediately delete that, cancel that out as a possibility. So they did an EKG. EKG came back with a moderate T wave abnormality. But I ended up finding out later from my cardiologist that that's how my EKG always looks. For some reason, I had no idea that was the case. But anyway, they did that, and then they ended up doing a CT scan. The CT scan came back normal, and then they did blood work. They did I think, what is it called, CBC panel, whatever. And all my blood work came back normal. They ended up giving me a bag of IV fluid because I was dehydrated. So when it came time for me to leave urgent care, my legs still wouldn't work, and I started dry heaving again. So they gave me Zofran and suggested that I go to the emergency room to have an MRI so that they could, definitely eliminate that the probability or possibility that I was having a stroke. So we go straight from urgent care to the emergency room. We go to Park Ridge. Park Ridge, the folks, they take me straight to the back, and they do my blood pressure. And my blood pressure then was like 145, I think 145 over 92 or something like that. Still pretty high for me. So, and my heart rate was still crazy. So by this time, I'm exhausted. I mean, I feel like I have ran a marathon because my heart rate has been out of control by this time for hours. I'm having a hard time keeping anything down, including water. And I'm scared. And like I said, this has been going on for hours. And this pressure in the back of my head is just, it's just astronomical. And it was really scary. And so the doctor came in, the ER doctor came in, and he said that he would have done everything that was done at urgent care, and that he agreed that an MRI needed to be done to eliminate, the possibility that I was having a stroke. However, he didn't think that I was. So by this time, they had determined that even though I had one bag of IV fluid, that I still dehydrated. So they started running an IV. They gave me Anavert for the dizziness, and it took receiving 10 milligrams of Valium intravenously to get me to calm down, to get my heart rate to slow, to get me to stop hyperventilating. And I think probably by this time, we're probably This is 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours after this whole thing began. And so my husband said that when they gave me the Valium, that I went straight to sleep. When I woke up, they had me in the MRI room, and they did the MRI. Of course, that came back normal. And doctor gave me a prescription for 5 milligram bars of Valium and Antivert, and that was that. I was exhausted for the next 3 days. I had no energy whatsoever for the next 3 days. I was completely spent. So that's what an attack feels like. You feel impending doom. You're pretty sure you're dying. You're pretty sure you're probably having a heart attack. You think you're going to pass out. Some parts of your body may not work the way you want them to work. And it's just a really scary thing. So the more you know. If you have any more questions, just ask. I hope you guys have a great one. God bless. And remember, it's okay not to be okay. Love you guys.